Welcome to this data analytics tutorial that covers sales, cost, and gross profit analysis using pivot tables and charts with Google Sheets. In this activity, we are using a sales and cost data set for a fictitious company, Kent Cabinet Hardware, KCH. The sales and cost data covers a 4-year period. For this tutorial only, we are using a small 36 record data set. For the actual activity, you will be using the full data set, so your answers for the activity requirements will be different, but the process will be similar. The tutorial data is different than the case data, but the Google Sheets steps are the same. Also, the years used in this tutorial may be different from the case, but the steps are the same. To complete this Google Sheets project, you will be directed to an Excel file by your instructor. The following steps will explain how to open the file with Google Sheets. First, go to docs.google.com/spreadsheets. Be sure you have a Google account and are signed in. Click on Blank Spreadsheet. Next, on the File tab, click Import. Next, click on Upload, then drag and drop the file where indicated. You can also use the button to select a file from your device rather than dragging and dropping. Next, click on Replace Spreadsheet, then Import Data. This file is large and may take a moment or two to load, so be patient. Next, on the File tab, click on Make a Copy. When the Copy Document dialog box appears, click OK. The Excel spreadsheet has been converted to a Google Sheet. Double-click to change the name of your spreadsheet to KCH Data and begin the project. Requirement 1 asks you to create 3 columns in the data worksheet that calculate sales revenue, cost, and gross profit for each sales record. For the first step in the first requirement, go to cell K2 in the data worksheet, which is the cell under the column heading Sales Revenue. Enter the formula for sales revenue, which is equal H2 times J2. Point to the cells rather than typing them in to reduce the risk of typographical errors. For the second step, click in cell L2, which is right below the column heading Total Cost. Enter the formula for total cost, which is equal I2 times J2. Again, point to the cells rather than typing in the name to reduce the chance of error. For the third column, click in cell M2, which is the cell right below the column heading of gross profit. Enter the formula for gross profit, which is sales revenue minus total cost, or equal K2 minus L2. Again, point to the cells rather than typing them in. There's a lot less potential for error that way. In the fourth step, copy the 3 formulas down to the rest of the rows by selecting the 3 cells and then double-clicking the small box in the lower right corner of cell M2. With the full data set, this may take your computer a minute or two to do. Next, format the 3 columns by selecting them and then clicking on Format, Number, Accounting Format. Remember, to select the columns, hold down your Shift key and click on each column heading. Let go of the Shift key once you have all 3 columns selected. Next, select the headings in cells K1 through M1. Then click on Format, Number, Plain Text. We have to format the column headings here as plain text so that some of our later steps will work properly in Google Sheets. That's it. You have added 3 formatted columns to the data worksheet. Requirement 2 states, create a pivot table that shows sales revenue by region for each year. Correct any errors in the data sheet. Insert a pivot chart to show sales trends. The first step is to click anywhere in the data worksheet. On the ribbon, click on the Data tab and then click Pivot Table. Next, the Create Pivot Table dialog box will appear, displaying the data range of your data. click New Sheet, and then Create. Before we go any further, double-click the Worksheet Name tab and rename it Requirement 2. That will help to keep track of the different pivot tables we will be creating. Next, in the Pivot Table Editor, click on Add in the Rows section. In the drop-down menu, choose Region. Click on Add in the Columns section and choose Date of Sale. Click on Add in the Value section and choose Sales Revenue. By the way, if this panel ever disappears, you can bring it back by clicking anywhere in the pivot table you have created. Next, to format the Date of Sale row to show year, right-click on any date in the pivot table. Choose Create Pivot Table Group, then choose Year. Now, examine the pivot table. Look for errors. Here we see that Central has been entered as Centrals at least once in the dataset. When you work on the large assigned dataset, there may be different errors, but the same visual inspection technique will work to find any errors. And again, there can be more than one error. Now switch back to the Data worksheet, and on the Edit tab, choose Find and Replace. Find Centrals and replace with Central. Then click Replace All. You will get an Are You Sure message. Click OK. When you return to the Requirement 2 worksheet, you will see that Centrals has been replaced with Central in the pivot table. Repeat the same process for any additional errors you see in your data set. Next, select the data in cells B2 to E2 in your pivot table. On the Insert tab, click on Chart. Next, the Chart Editor box will appear on the right of your screen. Click on the drop-down box next to Stacked Column Chart and choose Line Type Chart. Double-click on your chart's title in the Chart Editor and change the name of your chart. Here is the pivot chart that we just created that shows sales revenue trends by region over the 4-year period. It is now complete. Requirement 3 reads, create a pivot table that shows sales revenue, costs, and gross profit for each year. What is the impact on retained earnings each year? The first step is to click anywhere in the Data worksheet. On the Data tab in the ribbon, click Pivot Table. Next, the Create Pivot Table dialog box will appear, displaying the data range of your data. Click New Sheet and then Create. Before we go any further, double-click the Worksheet Name tab and rename it Requirement 3. That will help to keep track of the different pivot tables. In the Rows section, add Date of Sale. In the Value section, add Sales Revenue, Total Cost, and Gross Profit. To format the Date of Sale row to show grouped by year, right-click on any date, choose Create Pivot Table Date Group, and then choose Year. This pivot table that shows sales revenue, total cost, and gross profit by year is now finished. The requirements for the data project ask to calculate the net impact on retained earnings in each of the years from the transactions. Remember that gross profit will increase retained earnings. Requirement 4 reads, create a pivot table that shows the most profitable brand in each year as measured by gross profit. The first step is to click anywhere in the Data worksheet. On the Data tab on the ribbon, click Pivot Table. The Create Pivot Table dialog box will appear displaying the data range of your data. Click New Sheet and then Create. Before we go any further, double-click the Worksheet Name tab and rename it Requirement 4. That will help us to keep track of the different pivot tables. In the Rows section, add Brand. In the Columns section, add Date of Sale. In the Value section, add Gross Profit. To format the Date of Sale row to show year, right-click on any date. Choose Create Pivot Date Group, then choose Year. The pivot table shows the most profitable brand each year as measured by gross profit. Requirement 5 reads, create a pivot table to answer the question, for all years within each brand, what was the most profitable collection as measured by gross profit percentage? What was the least profitable collection for each brand? Add a calculated field to the pivot table to calculate the gross profit percentage. The first step is to click anywhere in the data worksheet. On the Data tab on the ribbon, click Pivot Table. The Create Pivot Table dialog box will appear, displaying the data range of your data. Click New Sheet and then Create. Before we go any further, double-click the Worksheet Name tab and rename it Requirement 5. That will help to keep track of all the different pivot tables we are creating. In the Rows section, add Brand and Collection. In the Value section, add Gross Profit and Sales Revenue. To add a calculated field, in the Value section, click Add, then Calculated Field. Under Calculated Field 1, enter the formula Gross Profit divided by Sales Revenue. Be sure to summarize by custom. Select the data in column F. On the Format tab, click on Number and then Percent. Double-click the Calculated Field 1 heading and change it to Gross Profit Percent. To sort by gross profit percentage for each collection, change Sort By in the Rows section under Collection to Gross Profit Percentage. Change order to Descending. The pivot table is finished. We can see within each brand the most profitable at the top and the least profitable collections at the bottom as measured by gross profit percentage. Requirement 6 reads, create a pivot table to answer the question, which region was the most profitable in 2018 as measured by the gross profit percentage? Use a filter to include only sales from 2018 in this pivot table. Again, you will need to add a calculated field to the pivot table to calculate the gross profit percentage. Sort the regions by gross profit percentage from largest to smallest. Remember that the year you are asked about may be different in the case assignment than in this tutorial. The first step is to click anywhere in the data worksheet. On the Data tab on the ribbon, click Pivot Table. The Create Pivot Table dialog box will appear, displaying the data range of your data. Click New Sheet and then Create. Before we go any further, double-click the Worksheet Name tab and rename it Requirement 6. In the Rows section, add Date of Sale and Region. In the Value section, add the Gross Profit Percentage calculated field, just as in Requirement 5. To format the Date of Sale row to show year, right-click on any date. Choose Create Pivot Date Group, then choose Year. Select the data in column C, and on the Format tab, click on Number and then Percent. Double-click on the Calculated Field 1 heading and change it to Gross Profit Percentage. Sort the regions by gross profit percentage by changing Sort By to Gross Profit Percent in the Region section of the Pivot Table Editor. The pivot table is finished. We can see the most profitable region in 2018 as measured by gross profit percentage. That's it, we are done. This video was created and narrated by Dr. Wendy Tietz. Have a great day.